Hi, I'm Eric Johnson, Dean of the Owen Graduate School of Management here at Vanderbilt University. And I'm here with Professor Craig Lewis. Craig is returning to us after 3 years as Chief Economist at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I'm just delighted to have him here today. So Craig, after 3 really exciting years at the SEC, how will that experience impact your research, and how will it find its way back into the classroom here at Owen?
I think it will benefit both my research program and my classroom teaching in a number of important ways. One of the things that we did was, in an effort to better understand how to employ textual analysis into our data analytic framework at the SEC, I brought in one of the leading experts in the field, a professor at USC named Jerry Hoberg. Jerry came and spent a year with us, and that collaboration resulted in a paper that the two of us have, where we are looking at the vocabulary choices that firms make in their MD&A sections in their 10K. It's a discussion of the risks that a firm faces. And one of the interesting takeaways is that fraud firms play almost a word shell game with their investors. They tend to overemphasize benign elements in their annual reports, things that are easy to verify, that are non-controversial, and then they under-discuss important risks. And the under-discussion is relative to firms in the same industry. So it's not that they don't discuss them. What they're doing is they overemphasize things that are easy to check, and they underemphasize things that are probably causing the problems that force them or motivate them to engage in some type of accounting shenanigans. And so that was a really interesting, and so once you start thinking about it in this way, it really opens the door. And so this was simply, does the framework have some potential? It does. And so the next step was to actually identify, using textual analysis, systematic factors that could be used in the same model that we're using to identify accounting fraud from a purely analytic standpoint. Now we have analytic factors that are generated from the text that firms are actually choosing for their financials. So I thought that was an interesting application of research. I don't think I ever would have gone down this path but for being at the SEC and looking for ways to improve processes internally.
That's neat. That's neat. So how will some of these things find their way back into the Owen classroom?
Probably the best way that my experiences will be reflected in my classroom is I had a front row seat to a lot of important events after the financial crisis. I've had the opportunity to speak in front of a lot of interesting people and to have conversations with folks that are, newsmakers, Ben Bernanke, Jack Lew, all the principals of the large federal regulatory bodies. And those experiences are quite interesting and fun, and I think the students will enjoy just a little bit of color around how financial regulators think about implementing the Dodd-Frank Act, for example, and trying to come out of the financial crisis. But I think it's more than that. I think that your experiences at the agency, you are continuously involved in conversations with the industry. So when there are rule makings that are important to the industry people are in explaining their perspective all the time. So I have a lot better sense of what's going on in the financial world. One of the things that you think after you spend 20-some years as a finance professor, that you have a fairly good understanding of how markets work and the subject matter that you teach in class. And I was quickly disabused of that notion, right? I realized that there was a lot more that I didn't know than I did know. And so one of the great things about being there is the rate at which you learn, I would argue, is very similar to that first year when you're in your PhD program.
Yeah, and all that will benefit the students here.
I think so. The ability to bring in new types of guest speakers to the classroom, all those things I think are a direct benefit of that experience.
Well, thanks, Craig, and thanks for spending some time sharing with us.
Okay, it's my pleasure, Eric. Glad to be back.